Hello, and welcome to CCN, Coastal Conservative News. We are your home for local and national news that impacts us here in the free state of Florida. I'm Allie Leger, and thank you so much for joining us today. Let's begin this week with Catie and CCN's Week in Review.
Hi, I'm Catie with CCN, coming to you with the Week in Review. This week, we heard from Sheriff Grady in Polk County, Florida, about the arrest of many undocumented immigrants. Sheriff Grady stated this is a very violent Venezuelan gang. He goes on adding, this is something you don't think you'll see going on near you, but this violent gang is well and live in Central Florida. Sheriff Grady explains how Polk County Sheriff and many other departments in the state of Florida have investigated these cases together to bring criminal charges forward against this Venezuelan terrorist group. He explains, it started out with alcohol theft and led to armed robbery. We began to ask ourselves, how did these criminals get in our country? Well, one of the Venezuelan gang leaders that was arrested in the operation walked across the El Paso border under the Biden administration in 2023. No shocker. The Biden administration had our borders wide open, and now we're seeing the aftermath. These Venezuelan gangs seem to be trending across America. A former New Mexico judge and his wife were arrested on Thursday, April 24th, in El Paso, Texas, after federal law enforcement learned that a high-profile Venezuelan gang member, Ortega Lopez, has been living in their home. The homeowners were booked into the Donna Ana County Detention Center on a tampering with evidence charge with no bond. The feds also seized firearms and arrested the illegal Venezuelan gang member. Homeland Security investigated Ortega Lopez, admitting to entering the country illegally in 2023 under the Biden administration. Upon the investigation, there were two other Venezuelan gang members living in the home at the time, who were also arrested. It is unknown if the couple knew these individuals personally or their gang affiliations. Another issue we're seeing trending across our nation is school violence. A video is circulating that appears to show a fight involving students and a teacher. The incident took place at a Georgia junior high school on Tuesday. It is unclear what may have led up to the fight, but the video shows one individual approaching someone who appears to be a school employee and punching him. The teacher responds by attempting to fight back. The chaos continued to unfold in the video, and it appears that others had gotten involved. Here's a clip of the disturbing video. It has been blurred for the privacy of the children. This is a serious issue in our schools across the U.S. I'm curious to see if Trump's new order this week will have any impact on these types of situations, because they are most definitely on the rise. Let's have a look at Trump's order. On Wednesday, President Trump signed an executive order to restore safety and order in American classrooms by ensuring school discipline policies are based on objective behavior and not DEI. The order requires new guidance to local and state educational agencies regarding school discipline, emphasizing compliance with Title VI, protections against racial discrimination. It calls for appropriate action against educational agencies that fail to comply with Title VI and continuing to use these DEI discipline practices. The order requires a report to the president that includes an analysis of DEI-based school discipline policies to ensure that federal funds do not support racially favored policies, including nonprofit organizations. President Trump is taking actions to combat the increased levels of classroom disorder and school violence that teachers and students are facing due to flawed Obama-Biden policies. In 2014, the Obama administration called for discipline by race, rather than simply imposing discipline based on an objective behavior alone. As a result, students were disciplined differently depending on their race, and some students who should have been suspended or expelled for dangerous behavior remained in the classroom. In 2023, the Biden administration, of course, reinstated the Obama practice of weaponizing Title VI to promote a DEI approach to school discipline, which obviously made schools less safe. President Trump prioritizes the needs of students, parents, and teachers over the demands of teachers' unions, ensuring policies serve the interests of American families first. The America we once knew is coming back, folks. Stay tuned on CCN for all the latest news.
Welcome back to CCN. Thank you, Catie, so much. Now here's Raj Doraisamy with our Suncoast Community segment, where he discusses why truth matters.
Welcome to this very special edition of the community segment on Coastal Conservative News. I'm here with Gus Mollasis. Gus Mollasis, the author of Get Trump. You need to get this copy of this book and the sequel as well, which is We the People Get Trump, because they want to get America and us. Trump is just standing in their way. You guys have got to see this book. Gus, fantastic work here. But we're not here actually to talk about Trump. We are actually here to talk about the infamous visit that Dr. Fauci made here in Sarasota, Florida. And as you can see on the screen, Dr. Fauci was here not too long ago, last week actually at the time of this recording. And you can see that while Dr. Fauci was speaking at the Van Wezel Auditorium, Coastal Conservative News was interviewing a number of people that were protesting his visit here. And you can see that coverage here on the screen. Lots of people showed up. In addition to the protesters, we had a number of just top-level speakers speaking, like you can see here, Dr. Joseph Ladapo, who is the Surgeon General for the state of Florida. He did a lot of work to keep the state of Florida open. He used science to refute Dr. Fauci's policies that ended up shutting down the planet. Remarkable how that actually happened. And remarkably, Dr. Fauci is making a killing, money. Oh, did you hear what I just said?
A killing. He's making a killing. He made a killing before. He's making a killing now.
That was I didn't intend to say it that way.
Not Freudian.
Yeah,
not Freudian. Not Freudian.
That was crazy.
Faucian.
It was a slip right there. It was a Faucian slip. Oh my God. So back on the screen here, Fauci making a killing again, money-wise, by actually charging people to come and speak, like he did here in Sarasota, Florida. Over 1,700 people paid a couple $100 to actually see him speak. And he apparently has been doing this throughout the country. As you can see, these different videos of his previous speaking engagements. But the reason we're having the conversation here today is because that is not the entire story. This is the other part of the story that many, many Americans are not aware of, the collateral damage from Fauci's policies and the number of deaths. It's easy. You just go to rumble.com, which does not censor, unlike YouTube. And on rumble.com, just type in the word died suddenly or COVID, and you will see a number of articles here, including this one here by the current deputy director of the FBI. There is no shortage to the amount of information, if you know where to look, about the death toll that can be attributed directly to Dr. Fauci. So to talk more about that. So Gus, I'm so glad we're here together in the studio.
Thanks, Raj.
To talk with us about this. You, Gus, actually went into the auditorium. You were not outside the entire day with the protesters. You're not outside the entire day listening to speakers. You actually went into the Van Wezel Auditorium. You got 2 tickets, and you were there in person with Dr. Fauci, which I'm sure is quite different from what most people have seen, where you're seeing him on the screen. Gus, were you shocked about the whole Fauci experience and what he talked about when you attended that lecture?
I have to tell you, it was nothing like I'd ever imagined it, although I knew the man was a bona fide liar and a personification of evil. I felt that going in, but I didn't know that I was going to get this. This was like the day after Easter, so it was Holy Monday. You know, it was like, it was Holy Week. It was Holy Week. It was Monday on our way to Easter. And once inside with my colleague, Kevin, I felt an overwhelming evilness.
Wow.
An evilness that I've only felt one other time like this. It wasn't like I saw people inside. I saw them standing up, which made me sick. I almost threw up. I have to tell you, they stood up.
Almost like they were paying homage to this guy.
The homage. This was a hero, Raj, and this was somebody who should be. It was a church service, but evil for the wrong reasons.
Wow.
And it shook me to my core. I was there on January 6th, as you know, as a protester, peacefully protest. I was at the Capitol, and I climbed up and I looked at the Washington Monument, and it brings tears to my eyes because I felt the evilness that was pervasive that day, and I couldn't put my finger 100% on it until after. Today, on this day when Fauci was there, to see him lie on the stage with a fake, and I'm going to say it, Donald Trump, when he coined the term fake news, fake journalist. Joan London was there from her Good Morning America days, just kind of feeding him questions so he could lie profusely to the people there that were ready to take the communion of lies. They were like, yes, please, more lies. Yes, please. No tough questions. No questions about, they asked one question she asked. Did anybody die from the COVID shot? And he sat there, bull-faced lie. And now I think there's hundreds of thousands to millions of people are the estimates. And he lied right there. She never asked about the mask.
Well, what did he say?
He said, not one.
You kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding you.
You know, this...
It shook me to my core. My colleague Kevin and I, we were very much gentlemen. They warned us, like good Nazis. They are the Nazis. Like good Nazis, if we were to speak up and say anything that would cart us out of there. I have a reputation in this town. I'm well versed in this town. I'm in media. I'm in teaching. I try to earn a living in this town. I've been canceled already. We weren't going to yell like lunatics there, but they warned us they would cart us away. I knew that they wouldn't give us a chance to do questions, but if they had, Raj, I want to tell you the question later. I'll save it to the end of the show. I'll tease it a little bit. If I had a chance to ask one question, I was going to ask them one question politely. But I was sickened. My colleague Kevin, who's a good man, as you know, he works with the team. I was absolutely shaken to my bones that these people, by the way, I was dressed in my suit. This is my Trump gear. It's like I wear a suit and tie. They were dressed very under. For an event like this, I think put a suit and tie on. Look like a human being. Look like, you're going to something, or if you believe it. And they were shaking their heads as we walked in. They kind of thinking maybe they were on to us, that we were truth seekers. But what I realized, that they were a lot like the people that they've canceled the last couple years. The Tulsi Gabbard, who was a woman that could have been the next president of the United States, had the Democrat Party acknowledged her and not rewarded Kamala, who was useless. Joe Rogan, who they've canceled, who was very much in the middle and leaning probably left as a Democrat. Elon Musk, they've made him the figure of hate now. So as I watched how they elevated this evil guy, this is like we're in reverse here. What is good is bad, and what is bad is good today, to the left. And I say that in honor of my friend Dennis Prager, who's the blurb on my book. It's not liberalism that's bad. Liberalism is free speech, First Amendment. Those are all liberal attitudes. Bobby Kennedy, for God's sake, wants to make America healthy again. All of a sudden, he's the devil. I could not believe, and it shook me even more, that this man could sit there and lie. And they asked about hydroxychloroquine, and they asked about ivermectin, which, by the way, worked, and I never got the shot. This Greek boy here, who knows the Hippocratic Oath, first do no harm, Raj. First do no harm. I had shots my whole life as a child. I had asthma. I have my asthma spray. I got 1,500 shots in my life. I wasn't against a shot that was vetted, but to force people to hold their jobs, to hold their schooling over their heads, to hurt their income, I was sickened, and I'm fighting even stronger now because of the evil that's there. But they were taking the communion, and that was my takeaway from that. I could not believe what I was hearing, but at the same time I could believe. Remember, they closed the churches. They left the strip clubs open. They left the liquor stores open. They closed the churches and synagogues and temples for people to pray. This is the priorities. So this is a plan to me. He's part of. You said a wonderful thing as a Freudian or Faucian slip. He made a killing then, and he's making a killing now.
It's remarkable, Gus, as you were in the auditorium watching this, and I while you're talking, I just kept thinking about the statement he made, because the interviewer said, "Did anyone die from COVID?" And he says no. And why that was so remarkable to me is, how would he even know what happened in Zimbabwe? What would he even know what happened in the Sudan? He has no, and yet he, as a scientist, allegedly scientist, he makes these categorically broad statements. So it's terrible that there is no curiosity represented by the audience about trying to figure out the truth. They are so eager and enthusiastic about swallowing whatever information they're being fed. Totally the opposite of science in a very, very real way. So, Gus, having gone through this experience, when you hear the name Fauci, what is the first thing that comes to your mind, Gus? And I kind of know, but I need to hear it.
I have to tell you, as I saw it now perpetuated in this only gave me more evidence. By the way, when he used to do the interviews with our great President Trump, we used to give an interview every day in front of the public. And he would sit there and ask questions. Trump spitballs. He goes, maybe Gaza could be a high-end mall. He says it like that because he's thinking of ideas versus a killing field. He's always thinking out of the box. Maybe we could have endless wars stop, and you never would have had a Saddam Hussein with Donald Trump there. Forget the Ukrainian and the Israeli situation. He would have sat down with Saddam and said, you like The Godfather, let's make some condos here. We'll play The Godfather, and we wouldn't have no pain. The thing that got me was Fauci would sit there during those press conferences and lie then. Hydroxychloroquine came up, ivermectin came up, and they shot down the president's words, which would work and would have saved millions of lives, and they pushed the shot because of big pharma, and we all know that to be true now. The other thing, Raj, and I'm glad you brought that up, is the lab leak. He would not go so far as to say it was a lab leak versus a bat. A bat and a bat. That Kevin was there with me. We were taking copious notes. We were both trying to not throw up. Because that was you have a gag reflex when someone's lying to you. He said, he lied. He said, we really don't know. We really don't know if it was the lab or if it was the bat, but we should guard against both. And they all applauded. Well, guess what? Redfield just came out, I think in the last 24 hours. And it's if you don't think it was a damn lab, you're a moron, okay? And by the way, the left is coming over. People like Bill Maher, who just visited the White House, God bless Bill Maher. I quote him in my first 2 books. He's at least reasonable to go, I'm not going to hate someone because they voted for Trump. He said on The View, Donald Trump was on The View 18 times. They used to play with his hair, and they all loved him until they hated him. They did the same thing with Elon, same thing with Bobby, same thing with Tulsi, same thing with Joe Rogan, same thing with Russell Brand. Okay, they knew Russell Brand was a philanderer and hung out with women and was a hedonist. But guess what? When he found Jesus, now they hate him more. Right? Now they hate him, and that's the whole thing. So I am not going to put my guard down. I'm fighting for not only this president. This president is a biblical figure, and I'm not saying he's Jesus. He's flawed just as I am. We're all flawed. But to see with this poor man, I could cry. And Elon Musk is a hero for saving the public square. I just hope, and one of the questions I know you're going to ask me is, what do I hope happens? I hope justice is served. I just want the truth to come out, guys. Does hydroxychloroquine work? Bill Gates to be telling me about population to be lowered? This is the goal? It's out there, guys. I used to be a conspiracy theorist, Raj, and I used to look at conspiracy theorists, I'd say, I'm like, are they nuts? Are they crazy? And now you see the truths coming along. You see them being proved daily. And they do that projection thing, they spin it. I'm sorry, I'm emotional, but it's just been Easter, and Easter is a time of the resurrection, of course, and I'm a Greek Orthodox kid. And to see this president and this team of great people that he vetted to put in to turn this country around, to help not the elites, but to help the common guys. To help the people that are raising families like yourself, like Kevin, like the people that are out there, the good people that I meet. And I met good people there that they're protesting, and the protest was wonderful. It was peaceful. By the way, it was peaceful on January 6th. The other thing, and I know this is dovetailing into something else, they will speak up for an illegal alien who's here from a gang, but they sat on their hands while people were in gulags from January 6th. Americans who were sitting there with no due process. Now they claim the due process. Somebody primary this idiot in Maryland that's a senator. I almost feel like moving to Maryland. I don't know if I could deal with the weather or the crab cakes or the Baltimore Orioles, but anyway.
And there you have it, guys. I mean,
it's too much. What's good is bad and what's bad is good in their eyes. And that's the left speaking, not the liberal, not the Bobby Kennedy or the John F. Kennedy wing of the Democrat Party. That's Donald Trump's party now. And by the way, they're taking the 20% they take the 20% argument on everything. I know that, some of Trump's cabinet have said this. They're on the wrong side of every issue. The women in sport, the men in sports, the border. 80% of the country want the border. They've lied about everything, guys. They lied about Biden's cognitive thing. They were saying he was sharp. He wasn't ever sharp. He wasn't sharp when he ran, okay? He wasn't sharp as a senator.
And they're continuing to lie, and you heard it firsthand here.
So it was a lying, Raj. Yeah. I just couldn't take it. And you're an honest guy, and I just anyway. I know
Gus Mollasis and Kevin Gamble, both from our team, were actually again in the auditorium with Dr. Fauci. Please make sure you also catch Kevin Gamble's account of that same event. Just look at last week's episode of CCN.
I wanted to do, because I wanted them to I told Kevin this, if they handed me the mic, and I have no fear of public speaking, and that's why I admire Trump so much. He's a Gemini. He goes out there, does rallies. They're trying to conjure up now that there's a big protest against the Trump vote. There isn't. They have 1,000 people, 5,000. They're doing these paid rallies. Trump could do a rally every day and draw 50,000, 100,000 people that would gladly, and I say this, take a bullet for him, by the way. But the question I wanted to ask at that, if they handed me the mic, which they would not, they don't want free speech, guys. They don't believe in the truth. I wanted to ask him, and this, Dr. Fauci, could I ask you a question? He would say, yes, sir, yes. What? Could you prescribe something to me, sir, that allows me to sleep the way you do, having killed millions of human beings and done all the harm you did from the lies? Can you prescribe something for me, sir? That would have been my question.
Very sobering thought. It's remarkable, again, how many people came to attend this event and continue to pay to listen to Fauci speak. It just seems, Gus, that they are completely not informed. They're not curious. About looking at both sides of the story and being critical thinkers. So really appreciate you sharing that with me.
Thanks,
and guys, you just heard Gus speak, so you know that his book is going to be captivating. Make sure you get his book, We the People Get Trump, and the prequel to that book, which was just Get Trump. Make sure you get that book. Gus, I hope to get you back here again.
Thanks, Raj.
Because I know there was a lot of stuff here that we wanted to cover that we just ran out of time. Thank you for speaking with us. And please, my friends, share this video with other people in your life, especially those people who continue to be captivated by the propaganda that people think is the news and it's actually not the news. So with that said, let me turn it back to you, Ali and Michelle and Catie, back in the studio.
Thank you, Raj, for that report. Next up is our Political Pulse segment right here on CCN.
Welcome back to CCN. Our Political Pulse segment starts with a few legislative bills that are headed to Governor Ron DeSantis to sign.
That's right, House Bill 6025 and companion Senate Bill 925, which aim to repeal a law that bans the sale of firearms and ammunition and the carrying of firearms during a state of emergency. The House bill passed with 86 yeas and 28 nays.
These bills aim to balance public safety with constitutional protections of our God-given rights to protect ourselves, our families, and our property. Our natural rights should never be suspended or overridden due to public emergencies of any kind.
Also headed to Governor DeSantis' desk is the Misuse of Emergency Systems Bill. This bill, once signed into law, will provide enhanced criminal penalties for falsely reporting crimes to our emergency services that could result in great bodily harm. This bill comes at the height of swatting occurring across the nation, with many high-profile conservatives being the target. Those of you who don't know what swatting is, it's when someone calls the police and reports a horrific crime occurring in someone's home unannounced that could possibly result in the unsuspecting resident to be murdered by police.
Wow, that's right, Allie. The swatting must end, as it is a waste of time and resources for our law enforcement and takes them away from real crimes being committed. It looks like Florida bill is leading the way in many legislative initiatives, such as the passing of House Bill 1299, which would bar healthcare discrimination based on vaccination status. As we have seen during COVID, many doctors were turning away patients for exercising their choice to not be injected with an experimental bioweapon.
That's correct, Katie. The companion bill, Senate Bill 1270, needs some momentum to get it through the Senate. We need all of you watching here today to reach out to Senate President Al Britton and urge him to get this bill passed. The Public Health Patient Bill of Rights is essential in a free society where patients have the ultimate authority over their health care. You can reach Senator Al Britton at 941-575-5717. Let him know we support patient choice over union socialized medicine.
Another bill that was passed by the House was HB 1539, which is the Materials Harmful to Minors bill that will close a loophole existing in current Florida statute that allows sexually explicit materials in our schools available to minors.
That's right, Katie. This bill is very much needed, as there are 57 books that are extremely sexual in nature available to our children that have zero literary value. Despite many Democrats standing in opposition to remove pornographic materials during the debate, it passed 81-29.
Some of the arguments made by Democrats were, quote, "This is exerting control over what our kids are allowed to learn," end quote, and, quote, "Voting no is not a vote for inappropriate content. It's a vote against broad overreach and censorship," end quote. It was also stated that the removal of these pornographic materials would be harmful to the Black and Hispanic communities.
Wow. I hope our audience can see that the Florida Democrats are actively supporting the sexual exploitation of our state's most vulnerable, our children. I would also like to remind our audience that these same Democrats did not voice their concerns when conservatives were censored for sharing the truth about COVID and the local government overreach that occurred during that time, which resulted in massive learning loss. I would also like to point out that our Black and Hispanic communities' heritage and culture is not rooted in pornography. At the end of the day, we can all agree that there are more intellectually stimulating reading materials that are available to our children that will invoke innovation and provide tools for their success in life after school.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Allie. Remember, everyone watching, it is up to us to protect our children. So please don't forget to reach out to Senator Al Britton, the Senate President, to urge him to pass the companion bill 1692 as it has stalled in committee.
Imagine rewinding to 2020.
Parents obviously can equip their kid to go to school however they want, but there shouldn't be any coercive mandates.
Local school board members made a firm decision enforcing mandates that disregarded the voices of concerned parents.
This virus is going after our young children.
The emergency school board meeting in Sarasota dissolved into chaos as the board discussed mandating masks for students, which ultimately passed tonight.
Refusing to back down, thousands gathered at the Hollow, determined to secure exemptions for their kids. With the support of dedicated doctors, they navigated every path to shield their children from mandates. Yet, despite these united efforts, a darker challenge surfaced. Doctors who issued exemptions became targets, some even losing their jobs for standing by their convictions. That's when the decision was made, a bold new vision to create a sanctuary for children's health and a support system for parents' rights. Thus, We the People Health and Wellness Center was born, founded on a mission to serve, to support, and to protect. This vision has since expanded, aligning with the Make America Healthy Again movement and incorporating the most advanced treatment modalities. Additionally, We the People Health and Wellness Center has launched a series of transformative community-based events, each featuring a trusted expert. In December, Dr. Joseph Ladapo spoke about his new book to a packed audience. Next, Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, in an intimate lunch and learn. Still to come, Dr. Pierre Corey, Dr. Brian Artis, plus others. The new management, doctors, and staff of We the People Health and Wellness Center stand with you, ensuring that no parent will ever have to face medical tyranny alone again. We are here to empower, to inform, and to support you for a healthier community.
Welcome back to CCN. Here's Kevin Gamble with this week's Faith in Focus.
Hello and welcome to another segment of Faith in Focus. Today we're going to focus on Christianity and secular humanism. What is better for society? Let's start with the core issues. Christianity versus secular humanism. Christianity, rooted in the belief in God and biblical teachings, offers a moral framework built on absolute truths. Think the 10 Commandments. Love your neighbor and forgiveness. Secular humanism, on the other hand, rejects the supernatural, relying on human reason and relativism to define morality. It sounds empowering, but here's the catch. Without a transcendent moral anchor, what's right or wrong becomes subjective, shifting with cultural trends. Now, I'm not saying secular humanists are bad people, far from it, but a society without a shared moral foundation can drift toward chaos. Christianity provides a moral compass that's been tested for centuries, promoting virtues like humanity, charity, and accountability to a higher power. Secular humanism, on the other hand, while emphasizing individual freedom, often leaves us asking, who decides what's moral? And that's where things get messy. Let's look at a real-world example, public schools. In 1962, the Supreme Court ruled in Engel versus Vitale that school-sponsored prayer was unconstitutional, effectively removing it from classrooms. For nearly 200 years before that, prayer was a staple in American schools, often seen as a way to install moral values. Since then, some argue we've seen a moral and societal decline. Let's unpack the data. First, school violence. According to a 2007 CDC report, 5.9% of students carried weapons to school, 7.8% were threatened or injured on campus, and 12.4% were in physical fights. And that was in 2007. More recent studies show 5.3% of students skip school because they feel unsafe. Compare that to pre-1962 when such statistics were notably lower. The absence of prayer isn't the sole cause, but it's worth asking, did removing a practice that encouraged reflection and moral accountability contribute to this rise? It's very possible. Then there's the mental health crisis. Since 1962, teenage suicide rates have tripled and depression among youth has skyrocketed. A 2019 study in the International Journal of Mental Health Systems suggests religious education can promote mental health by fostering coping mechanisms, community, and a sense of purpose. Christianity, with its emphasis on hope, redemption, often provides a framework for dealing with life's struggles. Secular humanism, while offering rational tools, can sometimes leave individuals feeling like they're just a speck in a meaningless universe. Mass shootings are another grim reality. A 2022 report from the Violence Project found that 92% of K-12 school shooters were suicidal before or during their attacks, and many experienced severe childhood trauma. Some, like former Governor Mike Huckabee, have argued that removing God from schools creates a void where traditional values once stood, potentially exacerbating these crises. Christianity teaches the inherent value of every life, which could counter the despair driving such acts. Secular humanism, lacking a spiritual dimension, might struggle to offer the same depth of meaning. Now let's talk morals. Christianity argues that morals come from God, an unchanging standard, just like the laws of logic and the laws of mathematics. Thou shalt not kill, steal, or bear false witness aren't suggestions, they're commands. This creates a society where people are accountable not just to laws, but to a higher authority. Secular humanism, by contrast, often embraces moral relativism. If morality is just what we decide, then what stops us from justifying harmful behaviors when they suit our needs? History shows that societies without a moral anchor, like post-revolutionary France or certain 20th century regimes, can slide into chaos. But it's not just about preventing harm. Christianity fosters positive virtues. Think of the countless Christian charities, hospitals, and schools built on the principle of loving thy neighbor. Secular humanism can inspire good deeds too, but its focus on individual reason doesn't always translate to collective sacrifice. Christianity calls people to something bigger than themselves, creating communities bound by shared faith and purpose. Now, critics might say, hold on, secular societies like Sweden are doing fine. And sure, they have low crime rates and high living standards, but even there, mental health issues are rising. And many Swedes report feeling spiritually unmoored. Plus, America's cultural diversity and history make it unique. Our nation was founded on Judeo-Christian principles. Think, in God we trust. Removing that foundation doesn't automatically make us more inclusive. It can leave us fragmented. Back to schools. Some argue the 1962 ruling didn't ban prayer entirely. Students can still pray privately. True, but the cultural shift was seismic. It signaled that public expressions of faith were less welcome, paving the way for secular humanism to dominate education. Think about what we see today in school. We have over-sexualization of kids by teachers. They want them to be transgender. They want them to be non-binary. Just give them choice and free reign to choose whatever they want to be, ultimately destroying their lives down the road. As one source puts it, this shift coincided with a 300% increase in divorce rates, a 500% rise in teenage pregnancy, and a 330% spike in violent crime. Whew, that's horrible. Correlation isn't causation, but the timing raises questions. Wouldn't you agree? So what's the takeaway? Christianity offers a moral framework that's objective, time-tested, and community-oriented. It gives people hope, purpose, and accountability. Things secular humanism struggles to replicate without a spiritual core. So basically, secular humanists borrow from the Christian worldview. The data since 1962 suggests that removing prayer from schools may have contributed to rising violence, mental health issues, and moral drift. Could bringing back voluntary prayer or religious education help? Maybe not as a cure-all, but as a step forward to restoring values that hold societies together. That's all for today's episode of Faith in Focus. What do you think? Does Christianity offer a better path for our morals and schools? Drop us a comment, and if you enjoyed this, subscribe, share, and join me next time as we explore more big ideas. Until then, keep seeking the truth. God bless.
Thank you, Kevin, for keeping our faith front and center this week.
Well, that's it for us this week on CCN. Make sure you follow Coastal Conservative News on all platforms for all of the latest.
And if you have a story you would like us to cover, send us a message to contact@coastalconservativenews.com. We will see you next week.
And don't forget to do your civic duty by making those phone calls to our legislators to advocate for our values. We'll see you next week at 6 p.m. right here on CCN. Have a great weekend, everyone.